What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Beck Easy.
Hey, guys, it's Trell, and this is
The Team. And we are back for another wonderful episode. This episode is in honor of Black Minority Mental Health Month. So we have the lovely kings here in the building. Thank you guys for coming. Introduce yourself. We'll start with Mr. Braggin' Right.
It's your boy Braggin' Rice, New Haven Zone. You hear me? It's your boy Braggin' Rice, New Haven Zone. You already know, hottest in the area. Local rapper. You can call me that, whatever. Bulla.
Period.
I'm Devin McCory, founder, president, CEO of the Wellness Initiative.
Libra Lester III, current grad student, half of Thoughts from a Counselor podcast.
Daniel Boyd, a.k.a. Dan the Brand.
Sharon Smalls, school social worker at CREC, born and raised in New Haven, currently residing in Bloomfield.
Welcome, guys. Welcome. We are so happy to have you guys. We are actually really excited about this episode because we know that Black men and mental health is a big thing now with, a lot going on in our communities. So we thank you guys for participating with us and being with us.
Yes, we appreciate you guys.
So we have a hot topic with sports.
Icebreaker.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I meant icebreaker.
Oh, okay.
But I said, you know what I mean. So we have an icebreaker for y'all. So with the way that sports is going now with the whole, the hub in Florida for the NBA and then some NFL players saying, look, I'm not coming back. I wanted to ask you guys, who do you think is the best player, basketball or football, within the last 10 years and why?
Oh, if everybody else thinking, I can lean forward that right now. LeBron James.
Okay, and why do you say that?
So LeBron James has built a school for his community, right? He's funded his community. He just started a voter suppression initiative to tackle that. And not to mention, LeBron is probably the only basketball player in history to not have an outside baby. That's great. We gotta talk about that.
This is actually valid. That's a valid point. Right. He's doing the action outside of his
playing
sport
ball.
as well.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah, I like to agree with that because image is really important. It's not just about what happens on the field, on the court. Outside of the court, he's just a great man. So whether he was playing ball or not, he's doing what he needs to do to build his community, uphold his family, make sure that we're taken care of. So that's really important.
Yep.
Yeah, I would throw Steph Curry in there as well.
True.
That's a good one.
Just him also uplifting his wife and kind of the direction they're going with the whole family theme as well. I think it's dope. But did you just say only men's sports?
Oh, it could be female too.
Serena as well.
Yeah.
She just put
Shout out to the ladies.
put her daughter on. Made her a part owner. That's lit. So.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, that's a big vibe. Generational wealth.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's lit. Any more? Those are some greats.
I really don't watch sports like that at all. But I will. You know who I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say Kobe Bryant. You wanna know why? Because he's always a guy who talks so much about striving for excellence and the amount of work and dedication and discipline it takes to achieve high goals. And also, we having a conversation about Black men and mental health. There's an app called Calm. It's a meditation app. And I think he actually worked with them and did like a meditation session, like an interview with them or something like that. So he was kind of tackling Black men's mental health issues even back then. So shout out to Kobe Bryant and salute him and his daughter.
Rest in peace to him.
Rest in power.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. Still building and making strides even though he's not here with us. So that's why I wanted to talk, because I miss sports. I ain't even gonna lie. My team, we do have Cam now to the Patriots, so we're gonna see what he do. I know he has something to prove, so I know he's gonna go hard.
Yeah.
So
I hope y'all crash and burn.
oh please, listen. Even if we crash and burn, the legacy still stands, okay? The
How
C-suite
rude.
still stands, okay?
I support Cam. I'm not sure about the Patriots. But
No Patriot slander in this room, okay?
Right, because
And then young man, what's his name? Tom Brady. Didn't he say if somebody kneel, he out?
I don't recall
Ain't
that.
that what he said that?
He also said in response to COVID, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. So, mind you, he's in Florida.
So not only is this dude a racist,
Okay,
but he's
so
an idiot.
we have hot topics.
Idiot and a racist.
But that's the legacy.
So
Your legacy is being a racist and stupid.
Let's not forget
So
that.
I just need Cam to get
Listen.
the screen.
Listen.
Car so we can
So we have a hot topic this week. We're just gonna slide.
That wasn't a hot topic?
We're gonna sidestep that conversation.
that we try to transition.
Right. So the hot topic, of course, we've been seeing Kanye the last few days in, social media and things like that. He did have his presidential election rally down in South Carolina, and he just was going off. As we know, clearly it had to be like a manic episode that that he was going through. And that's usually what happens right before he has music come out. I know he's supposed to be having an album come out in honor of his mom, is his mom's name.
And it's gonna be trash.
But so listen, so I heard that he just was saying a bunch of erratic things, but I heard that he can't create when he's on his meds.
I believe it.
Like he has to be off his meds in order to be able to create. Like he can't be himself. And I think that might be true. So we're gonna throw that in here. Me and Trell are gonna step away to let you guys indulge in that conversation and the rest of the conversation today. All right?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on Kanye?
Kanye.
And Mr. Sharon, can you just talk a little also about his diagnosis, which is bipolar disorder?
Sure. So when someone asks me what I think about Kanye, I always take a deep breath.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Can we take a break, baby?
Okay.
Because it's a lot going on.
Sorry.
Yeah, and now it's started. All right, yeah.
So Kanye West stresses me out. The reason is because there was college dropout Kanye, and then we have this Kanye. So as we see the transition from his early days in music with Rockefeller and where we are now, as someone who likes music and as someone who appreciates what we bring to the culture in terms of rap, it's frustrating to see an artist of his magnitude behave in this manner. And I always tell folks it's not simply about him being a celebrity and him being perfect, because we all have mistakes that we make. We get in front of the mic, we say some things that are kind of suspect. However, when you get to a certain level and you know that you have that influence, you have to be more responsible with the things that you say. So, in terms of going back, his bipolar disorder. So, publicized a while ago that he was diagnosed with that bipolar disorder, what some folks may also call manic depressive. It's a state where literally bipolar, you're always going from one extreme to the other. So either it's this mania, when you are getting up saying things that don't make any sense to anyone else but you, really disordered speech, kind of garbled in logic, saying things out of excitement. So kind of like this hyperactivity state, a state of restlessness, hyperarousal, some paranoia, which we've seen from some paranoia, which we've seen from some of the tweets that have been shared. And another thing, Twitter is a problem for a lot of celebrities. They just don't handle it well. We got to see Kanye because he took time to tweet his thoughts. And for the rest of us, they made no sense whatsoever. We're looking at him like, yo, he's wilding. 2 minutes later, oh, he's talking about his baby's mom. 2 minutes later, oh, now he's talking about mother-in-law. So like we just see kind of like this unraveling through social media. So it really wasn't a good look in that way. What do y'all think about that?
He need to go back to having a BlackBerry so he don't have access to none of this, because that's his fault. He just he don't need to talk. That's not his avenue. People keep trying to talk in different avenues that ain't theirs. Stop talking. Go back to music, and everything will be straight. But that's his people that he keep putting around him. So
I think the issue with Kanye speaks a lot to celebrity culture. A lot of times, like you already alluded to, we try to make them seem bigger than life because we're taught all our lives that, if you're successful, it's because of something unique to you. Without realizing, no, it's a lot of factors that contribute to your success. Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's like bigoted things. So like maybe colorism, maybe it was your skin tone. Maybe it's race, because we know that frequently happens. And he's spoken on how his race has supported and blocked him. And I think because he hasn't really taken the time to step back and build that awareness, because he blew up young, because he lost his mother, because he started out making beats and had to prove that he could rap too. I think he had a lot of things that sort of blocked his self-image from forming. He always had to latch on to whatever was needed because he was trying to eat, he was trying to survive. And the downside is that when we form our self-image around this idea of trying to be good enough rather than being whole, you don't get the opportunity to see who you could be, because you're still learning yourself through your actions as opposed to connecting the dots from your experiences.
Facts.
One thing I will say about Kanye West is the fact that I'm very aware of the fact that media is very manipulative. So we're not getting the full story, because that whole video they showed of him talking about Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen the whole thing?
I had to go looking for it, but yeah, I saw
Okay,
it.
so there's a few people who saw the whole thing. There was some parts of it where he was being very logical and very reasonable. So any human being, if you're giving a long speech, you're going to say some things that make perfect sense, some things that sound kind of stupid. Anybody, no matter who you are, no matter your mental state. So I think to an extent, the media is going to find the stuff that's the most controversial, show us that stuff,
Yep.
and then we're going to think Kanye West lost his mind. And then as far as him using Twitter, I mean, I think a big part of the issue is the fact that he's a fish out of water. When he started off, he was this black empowerment, college dropout, clean cut kid. Now he's shoved into a culture where he has a transsexual father-in-law now. He's met his wife after she did a porno video with Ray J, which would traumatize anybody. Right. If my wife had sex with Ray J, I'd be fucked in the head too. And at the end of the day, I think that we have to understand that we're not getting the full story. We're not getting the full story as far as Kanye West at all. And I think that yes, his mental illness does play a role, but
How did his song go? Sorry.
I hit it first. I hit it first.
Yeah, Ray J's a wild boy.
Yeah, but my point is we're never gonna fully get to the truth because the media is so adept at making Kanye West look crazy. Kanye West could just be a wacky guy. We all know wacky people who ain't necessarily nuts. I'm wacky, but I'm not necessarily crazy. So I think that we got to understand that. I think one of the worst things we could do is to rush to judgment with Kanye West because he is a person with a mental illness, and the media thinks it's funny to show a guy with a mental illness in an unstable moment, which I think is kind of like this. That'll drive anybody over the edge. You know, if I was going through depression and somebody's following me around with cameras and showing things that I said out of error, nonstop, 24 hours a day, that'll push me over the edge too. So, not saying I sympathize with what he says because he's made some statements that I think have been. Yeah, he made some outright. Him trying to minimize Harriet Tubman was extremely disrespectful to our ancestors.
But like when he said slavery was a choice.
Oh, he said yes, exactly.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously he's saying things that are triggering and things that are wrong, but at the same time, I can't necessarily say exactly whether this is just the media manipulating the story, him manipulating the story, or if he's really just unbalanced.
Yeah. But he makes it easy for himself though. Like he paints himself as a target, and he was always saying, "Look at me, look at me."
That's true.
And he's been the "look at me" kid for a really long time.
That's true.
Even before he got into the controversial statements, and it seems to be kind of like a trend where he says, "Look at me," says something wild, and then we react. So whether we know the whole story or not, those hot points and topics that he's making make us go, "What the hell, Kanye?" Like we always perk our ears and we get frustrated because for me now, I'm frustrated not because of even who he is or what he said, but at the time that he said it.
Right.
Like we're in the midst of coming off George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. We're trying to get people to register to vote, and here's this clown talking about something. I want to run for election, and then when he finally gets an audience to do a rally, he starts putting down one of our greatest icons.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you speak of Harriet Tubman in such a
Exactly.
way? Whether there was logic to it or not, that cannot be your soundbite.
It can't.
Like, it just can't be it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree.
I was going to harp on the same thing, basically, as far as like, I just think he don't got nobody around him who really like genuinely love him or going to tell him no. You feel me? I think like it's a song he said, "No one man should have all this power."
Yeah.
And I don't think he really know how to handle his position. He got a lot of power, and he don't have genuine people around him. I mean, we already know the Kardashians, they bugged out people, period. They do everything for ratings and for money. So, I mean, when you're dealing with that all day, it got to be like a circus dealing with that. Your kids growing up in that. And then, like, I mean, me personally, I just think he worried about too many other people. Like, I mean, he going through whatever he's going through, but why are you tweeting Drake? Like, what does Drake have to do with any of that? Like, you feel me? It's like, where's your mind at? Like, what does that man have to do with this situation, period? And what does Harriet Tubman have, like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you feel me? It's like, I don't know, my eyes are just like, Harriet, she's just like so high up. Like, it's like, bro, if you're gonna talk down her, like what, like who's above her, who's better than her? Like at that time, doing what she was doing for black people. Like I hate walking down the street to get a Dutch. Like if I had to go across rivers and shit and do all that crazy stuff, like feel me, like just to get like, bro, that's real back then. Like feel me, and they gonna skin your black ass. That's real. Yeah, like feel me, that's really real. So I just felt disrespected when he did that. I just ain't tolerated. Like I just took, I don't know, like but I ain't really been rocking with Kanye for a while. Ever since he put that red hat on, I just kind of been like, you feel me? Like his sneakers, really they kind of ass too, but it's just I don't know. I ain't really rocking with Kanye.
Yeah, and touching on that real quick, like you were saying, like he doesn't have any real people around him. He don't have nobody from the same culture around him. You know, he's not. He don't have that black empowerment element around him anymore. And on top of that, let's show of hands at the table. Who has bought a Kanye West album at this table in the last say 5 years?
Oh, 5 years.
Bought?
See, none of us, no black people kind of rock with him
My
like that.
Twisted Fantasy was like the last
That's
one.
like that's like his
that was
best
the last,
one.
yeah.
And that was like what, a decade ago?
And even that one was
That was
like,
the last
That was-
one.
Yeah, that was the last one.
That was his
So
best one.
who's propping him up and putting him in the spotlight? It ain't us. It's the other culture where he is being alienated and really don't kind of belong. It's the white culture. He's a white culture pop icon right now. We've been stopped rocking with Kanye like that. So he's being weaponized against us now, I think.
To build on that just a little bit, though, you got to remember that he can choose who he's around, right? Like a major part of self-care, which relates back to the topic anyway, is making sure you foster a good network.
Right.
And we've had Kanye, we've had Jay-Z, we've had Travis Scott, we've had other people talk about how he acts, how he moves. So we have to realize that we can't just look at it as, oh, Kanye's being isolated. No, Kanye chose
Isolated.
to be here.
True.
And we can talk
Right.
about both sides, which is the why did he feel that he needs to be away from black folk, and well, how did his thoughts change from where they got to?
Right.
But we do have to still recognize personal choice within that. Because accountability is not just saying, oh, what you did, it's what you did, why you were socialized to do it,
Yep.
and then when people talk to you about it, how do you react?
Right.
I also heard that I don't know if it's true, but I heard that you ever heard that like in the beginning when Kanye first was trying to like get around fashion people, like they were playing them?
Yeah, and they was talking about how they
the
didn't want
tables
his
have turned.
designs.
The
Yeah.
tables have turned. You feel me? So I think he has a chip on his shoulder. He really trying to get.
Oh,
You get
definitely.
what I'm saying? Because I think I read like he went to like Louis Vuitton. He was trying to like go in there and be like do free stuff and all that
Right,
type of
right,
shit.
right.
And Virgil came from their camp, and they were kind of like trying to like like keep him
Off-white,
here.
all of that.
Yeah, they were
Kanye
trying to like
boots
kind
on
of
him,
like feel me. That he's kind of like can't surpass them. So he got a lot of stuff with him. Period.
Nah,
Just
he got mad
you feel me?
baggage.
Like he don't keep
He
like
never
people don't really
dealt-
deal with him
he
like
never
that.
dealt
Jay
with
Z
his
don't rock with him
baggage.
at all.
Yeah.
You know
That's
that-
a sign. Like why hold on?
And back to what he was just saying, in terms of like bringing it back to the whole topic, like he never dealt with his baggage. If you're never gonna deal with that emotional baggage, all that built up anger and stress, it's just gonna come out in different ways. And to be honest with you, I personally don't think that I can use the N word, right? I don't think that nigga bipolar. So I think that nigga just personally just never dealt with any emotions. Never dealt, put it all in the back burner, and now it's just all coming out in different ways.
See, but that's
because
the complex thing about mental health, though, because
Yeah.
it's the you and your stable mind,
Yeah.
what issues you have to work on, and the condition you're living with, interacting with that. Because
Right.
I do think he definitely procrastinated on his self-development. We all have. We all
Yeah.
have something we do. We be like, dang, now you know you shouldn't put your phone on the corner of the bed, but you do when it falls. But then it's also the drawing depression, for example. Dang, I really have something to do, but I can't bring myself to get out of bed, or I can't bring myself to face it.
Yeah.
You have to realize that they feed on each other, which is why it's so important that we name his condition, but then we also name what he does when he is on his medicine,
Yeah.
or when he's not in a depressive or a manic phase, because it's a spectrum, right? He's
Yeah.
never just one component of it.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little about that. What happens, or how do we deal with bad things when they happen? All right, because every bad thing that happens to us is not traumatizing. All right, but it can be. All right, and how we handle that is, it's based on a bunch of different factors. It's based on maybe how you're raised, the type of resilience you have, your support system, like we talked about, whether you seek the help, what the help looks like, all those types of things. So in terms of his trauma, we know he grew up in Chicago. It wasn't like he lived like in the most dangerous areas, but he still grew up in a town
Yeah,
where
he was adjacent to it.
yeah, shoot him up all day long. Parents went through some issues in terms of finances, some things like that. Later on, we know he had that car accident where he almost died.
Yeah.
And that's when like true Kanye, he came out in the game, and that was when like people really embraced him. Then after that, years later, after all the success, a number of really hot albums, just changing the culture entirely as a producer and as an artist. His mom dies, and then now for me that.
But why did she die though?
Chasing
Now
that thing.
she died trying to get cosmetic surgery, I believe. So something, it wasn't like, she got shot, it was one of those things where, oh, I'm going to have a little small procedure, I'll see you in a few minutes, and then now she's no longer with us. For me, it was the moment his mom died where things started to get real strange, and you could almost kind of notice and pinpoint it. I was shortly after that the issue happened with Taylor Swift, at the MTV Music Awards.
Gallon of Henny on him.
Just doing some really odd things. So in terms of dealing with that trauma, so that to me was clearly a traumatizing time in his life. Aside from the car accident, that was the moment where I feel like he lost his best friend, his conscience, his anchor to sanity. So how do you exactly deal with either death, loss of a job, spousal issues, partner issues? Like how do you deal with this crazy stuff that happens to you?
Me personally, I used to deal with it just like everybody else deal with it, like drugs and liquor and stuff. But after I lost a girlfriend, I had to learn like the hard way, like that it really don't help and it makes shit worse. Because you wake up drunk and you don't know where your money at, you're high, you need more weed, or just in general, the pain just don't go away. You feel me? And you either make it worse trying to, you feel me, just do other stuff that you know you really not supposed to be doing.
Right.
You feel me? So me personally, like I said, I would just say it would be my music, because I talk about a lot of shit that I go through my music and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily talk to people. It's just I just, you feel me, like kind of like put my feelings on paper or just put it like,
because that's the
it's
relief.
song format, because that's how I relieve myself.
Right.
That avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's therapeutic for you. So that brings us to something else in talking about therapy. You know what I mean? And therapy is kind of like a cookie cutter thing. One type of therapy fits everybody. There are some things to us that are therapeutic, you know, where we don't need to actually talk to someone. So whether you're an artist, you know, you put that, you know, on a pen and pad. Whether you are, you know, you're painting, whether you are, you know, someone who gets heavy into exercise, weightlifting, taking care of your body, those types of things can be therapeutic, and that helps a lot of people cope with some tragedy or some bad things that happen, or just cope with the everyday stress of life. You know, being a black man is not easy. You know, and we deal with some things every day that make us almost not want to get out of bed. All right, but so how do we deal with that? Then you have this actual formal thing we call therapy, you know, psychotherapy, talk therapy, where you're going to sit across from somebody, you know, and you're expecting something. You know, what do y'all think about therapy in that form?
Okay, bro.
Yeah, so to start with, we cope, period, through our socialization, right? Through what we know, through what we're taught.
Yep.
And for a lot of men, that's to try and make money. Because they think, oh, well, if I can get the money, I can get what I need, which may not be therapy, for example. That's going to go to like the drugs, the alcohol. Or like if I have kids, I have a wife, I'm going to have the money so that they can do what they need to do. I'm going to take care of them and forget myself. But to go to your point about coping, we get so focused on coping, we forget to heal. Because all we're doing is we continually propping ourselves up to get from day to day to make the step to step, but we're not improving our mental state. We may not have contended with the problem, and then there's not a point in time where we're like, wow, I feel like myself, because we're still stuck in that like deficit where whatever is going on in our lives ends up sticking with us constantly. And then we see that now, to go back to Kanye with his music, because a lot of men experience, like all throughout rap and hip hop, getting rejected by women, right? Now, a lot of them have also experienced racism. But if you listen to a lot of music, you hear far more misogyny, which is bitches, hoes, this, than dang, why did that white dude not hire me? Why did this? Why did that?
Right.
And now that ties back into socialization, because we're taught kick the next person down on the list. So for black men with racism, that then transitions to black women with misogyny. Because we're like, oh, well, you're beneath me. You're a part of the problem, because now we're operating on the white model of how a house should work, how a community should work, rather than realizing that for those of us who come from poverty, it's not just your parents taking care of you. It's grandma, right? Then it might be your auntie. Then it's your cousin. Then it's your play cousins. We know this subconsciously, but consciously we think, I'm the man of the house. I should be able to do this. Or I got money. She still don't want me, man. Fuck her. Without realizing we're not thinking as ourselves, because we haven't unlearned the thoughts that are painted on us.
Good point. Sure.
Yeah. Back in the day, before the Black Empowerment movement, J. Edgar Hoover, who's a governmental agent, he's a piece of shit. He basically, they asked him what was the biggest threat to America. He said the black family.
Yeah.
And there's a book I read called Solving People Problems for the Creation and Maintenance of Family Wealth by a dude named Peter Sandwell. He talks about how in ancient civilizations, therapy wasn't really needed because we depended upon our families and our community and our tribe so much. So there's a Native American ritual where if somebody in a family dies and passes away, everybody in the family comes together. Every single person in the family comes together. And if that doesn't happen, what happens is that the trauma integrates itself into the family and into the behavior, and it's going to keep reiterating itself over and over again from generation to generation until it gets dealt with. So J. Edgar Hoover decided, I'm going to figure out a way to destroy the black family. And what we're dealing with is we're dealing with that lack of the kind of natural therapy that comes from having family around. We don't have our families are shattered now. Fathers ain't there. You know, men in general sometimes might not even be around for some family members. So without the family, there's no natural therapy, and I think that's something that's very important in the black community. You'll notice that, you know, when my grandmother passed away, I had to be around family. Had to be around family. So instead of me going through the grieving process and crying and being depressed about it and drinking and whatever, trying to deal with it, I felt a sense of joy. Because I felt like I'm here with this is such a beautiful experience that it went from, oh my God, I can't believe my grandmother passed away, to here I am with my family and we all dealing with it together. And then you looked around the room, there was some crying and there was some struggles to deal with it, but the joy of us being around each other was really a big support. So I think that we got to really focus on rebuilding the black family, however you define that. Rebuilding the black community as a whole, because like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to support a grown man too. And like you were saying, like you were talking about earlier, you need networks, you need a support network to deal with that stuff. And it's very important that you know, and I'm not religious at all, but spirituality is very important to me. All the years of me studying spirituality and meditating and, you know, going through my own spiritual journey, I don't believe in death. So that belief that death is not real, that it's just an illusion, that helps me confront and deal with death every single day. You know, I used to work in the hospital and see death all the time, but it never really bothered me because I study spirituality. And I think, you know, you can't create or destroy energy. So consciousness is just another form of energy. It's another expression of the divine creation energy of the universe. So in this physical form, this is a three-dimensional illusion. Yeah, our spirits are just wearing these bodies for fun for a little while, and then we go back to the all once you die. That's what I believe. So I don't really have no fear of death whatsoever. I don't really care at all. But I know there's a lot of people who do, so I show sympathy and support for them. But I don't believe it don't really affect me like it used to.
To expand, I'm gonna be quick with this. To expand on what you said though, you said that we have to define the black family however it is we define it, right? But I think it's important for us to note that the black family is the black family.
Man, woman, child.
Because a lot of times we do exclude people, like if you're living with addiction, people might be like, oh, okay, I don't want to talk about that. If you're in and out of jail, we might not want to talk about it. If you're gay, if you're trans, we have a lot of things that we use to structure and fragment it because, again, we're still rooted in these colonial ways of thinking. You know, we don't realize that wasn't how we were originally. So whenever we do talk about the family, we got to be very, very specific. Not that you weren't.
No, I know what you mean.
Because it's important to remind people, you're contributing to the fragmenting when you say, oh, you know what, only certain types of the black family. Because then that's the respectability politics that's leaking out. Then it's the, oh, well, are you college educated? Do you have a tux? Are you this? Are you that? We got all these markers to indicate, oh, well, this is what the black family should look like, without realizing when you have all these rigorous things, you might get excluded too. Because now you come in without your dress shoes, oh, you don't make the cut. We cut and dry. Then it's like, oh, what do I do?
Right. At the end of the day, you're still black. And I think our issue is, in our communities, like you say, we just have these tags and these conditions where you belong. We need to get back to the time where we were kingdoms. You know, when we were in Africa, we built pyramids. That's how strong our families were. Our families were our community. The terms were interchangeable. And what we do now, we have this culture where the only time the family gets together is when someone dies. That's the only time. But like, if you're there the entire time throughout the year, I don't have to wait till Aunt Sally dies to see you. You know, oh, I haven't seen you in 20 years. How you been? Like, no, like,
ain't nobody dying on that time.
Like, do we have to? And it's sad because we need each other every single day. You know, and this individualism, I like to call it, that's Eurocentric thinking. We were taught to be all about ourselves, and this is why we kill each other in the streets, because it's all about us. Why, you know, we're all fighting for the $1 that they're dangling in front of us, knowing they got millions more. If we work together, we could get our own money. We could build our own communities, both economically, politically, and everything that we need. So this individualism that we have, it creates this selfishness with us, so that we're always begging from the oppressor to get something. And then it creates this animosity, this confusion. So it's a lot that deals with us, that we have to deal with on the mental level, not only from amongst ourselves, but also from the outside. You know, so this idea, I'm gonna go back to that. That's something I think you said, of passing down pain. All right. So if you look at our rap music and our culture, the things that we talk about, the things that we rap about, so the cards that we're dealt, we pass that pain down a lot to our women. Okay. We have something in Hartford area started by my clinical services, the CEO Abdul Rahman Muhammad.
Good guy.
Started something called the Manhood Tree. So when this whole pandemic started, you know, when the pandemic started, one of the stats that was crazy was this sudden increase in rise in domestic violence. So it was so bad in Hartford that they had to create a whole separate task force of the cops just to deal with domestic violence. It was up like 25% in the month. And generally what happens when there's like a natural disaster or a pandemic or anything throughout the world, this is just a phenomenon that happens. And so as men, it seems like the stresses of life now, we can't go out the house. Some of us lost our jobs. We lost our means to prove that we're men as providers. Our kids are with us now 24/7 instead of those 8-10 hours we used to get a break throughout the day. You know, your lady's with you, your partner's with you throughout that time. You have no space to get anything out. So what do? How do you turn to that? Some people dealt with it well, some didn't. All right. we started this manhood tree to have conversations amongst us as men. We do it through Zoom, and it would be like 20, 25 dudes on a call on Saturday morning just to talk about what it means to be a man. Talk about fatherhood, talk about our childhood, talk about, what it is to have brothers, to have conversation, to have barbershop talk. And that's what it was. But it helped, and I noticed I participated, I think, 5 out of 6 sessions, that it just felt good to be able to talk to other dudes. I had no idea who they were, but we just talked about being men, the struggles of being men, the phases of manhood. It was just good. Barbershops are places now that we go to, and conversation gets a little real, gets a little raw, but it's good spots. Killer Mike was doing that down in Atlanta, where he's hosting some barbershop sessions. I think it was, not LeBron, on HBO.
Oh, The Shop.
The Shop. That is LeBron, right? Okay. Do y'all think we need more of those conversations, less of those conversations, or what form should we be talking to each other?
I'll go real quick. Yes, just to answer your question. Those forums need to be had. Those forums need to be there. Typically we did find them in the barbershop. That's typically where men go to feel that camaraderie. There's a lot of new avenues that are being developed in terms of now different circles that new grassroots people are doing in terms of inviting such. And I think that's needed. Just back to what you were saying in the previous conversation, this rooting the black family, and to quote Kanye, crack, Ronald Reagan cooked up the answer. Crack infiltrated the neighborhoods, the communities are gone, people are chasing that dollar to provide for the family, and it's just a horrible, horrible, horrible cycle. And so it's like we have to see that and then understand what are we doing and how it's truly impacting everything. And so it's like that's why we need that, but we as men need to hold each other accountable and be able to be like, yo, this is what you're doing. This is how it's affecting everybody else around you. Yes, I see how you're getting money and how you're doing this, but when you kill this guy or you do this, it's affecting the whole infrastructure of who we are.
Absolutely. I agree. Okay.
Yeah. To add on too, we have to make sure that when we create these spaces, they're transformative, right? That they're not more of the same. Because what is far likely to happen too is just a lot of dudes get together and they joke about the bad things they doing. They poke fun at, he be tripping, knowing full well what he doing is wrong, because they're not coming to the space with the intention of growing their self-awareness. They're really expecting more of the status quo, more of the same. And that's sort of why when we do have these spaces, we have to ask, is this a safe space? And is this a learning space? Because a lot of spaces are safe to be toxic, which is a conversation we do need to have, because it's like, yo, you can make a space, but many of us are black, have been in the white world, they give us a space, right? But do we want to be in it? No. And then if we want to be in the space, are we given proper resources? No. Then if we're in the space and we have the proper resources, do we feel comfortable bringing other black folk? No, because there's always so many layers to how things work. So we have to always ask, when we do those spaces like the barbershop, are we going to have people in there tune out too, or reading more literature, or talking to more people, or diversifying their thoughts? Because again, as many of us have learned from adults too, age doesn't mean you know what you're talking about.
Right.
Hell no.
Yeah. We go to our elders seeking advice, and sometimes they're not elders; they just old.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And going back to something you were saying before about accountability, I think that's the most important thing with these spaces. I think that many of the issues that are plaguing the community are happening because there's a lot of guys that give other guys passes. Let's be honest. And I've had some tough conversations myself with people who I knew who were, drinking too much, or even guys who were being disrespectful to their significant others, abusive to their significant others. And as men, we have a strong definition of what manhood is. A big part of that is accountability. We got to start holding each other accountable. So those spaces, I think that's the number one thing. I think much of the issues that's happening in the community can be stopped, and we stop giving each other passes and high fives. For doing guy stuff. Like, I met this chick, she thick, but I dissed her after I hit.
2020, that shit gotta change.
It gotta change.
My
girl running her mouth, I smacked her. Like, you gotta
I'm slapping niggas from now on.
Like, we gotta start checking our boys and even ending relationships in order to make the community better. Cause I'm a real big fan of the fantasy of a righteous militant warlord. I like the idea of destroying individuals who hurt the community, even if they're amongst our own. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who's my hero, he ain't play no games.
Right.
He had a group of Muslims that he referred to as, or they were referred to secretly as the wheelchair squad or the pipe squad. So if you was hurting the community, he would have his Nation of Islam soldiers come and
You get dealt with.
yeah, you get dealt with. I mean, they cleaned up hope when they under the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam cleaned up so many streets and held together so many families. But you can only do that when you start holding black men accountable. So I think that's very powerful. And I think that's the perfect space for that.
So in terms of accountability, I'll throw out another name. We'll leave Kanye alone for a little while. R. Kelly.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah, right.
So I think it was like a year ago, the Lifetime special came out about R. Kelly, and then for those of us who were brave enough, curious enough, daring enough, we watched it, and then you learn some things. Like we all knew it, but I don't think we all knew it to the extent that the show portrayed it. You hear these details, and what jumped out to me, the first thing that jumped out to me was the whole accountability piece. Because in order for R. Kelly to be who he is in terms of his sexual deviance, he had to have a whole entourage play a part in that. R. Kelly wasn't doing it by himself. Like
washing it away.
Yeah.
It's like, yo.
Clean up evidence, escorting girls,
Clean
ladies
up.
from one place to
Yeah.
other. In any city. Like we're not just talking like Chicago. We're talking like anywhere he went. He like, yo, can y'all go do X, Y, and Z? So that whole accountability piece, we have to at the end of the day be like, listen, we made R. Kelly. When Aaliyah happened, that should have been like, yo, stop. But since Aaliyah happened, he kept making music. We kept dancing to it. We kept turning it up in the barbershop. We kept playing it at the cookouts. We was all stepping in the name of love, doing all that kind of foolishness.
Called itself the Pied Piper.
Exactly. And it wasn't until the Lifetime special came out, we were like, okay, for real, this time we dealt with R. Kelly.
It made it look scary when
Yeah. And so in the culture, and I'll go back to it in terms of mental health, we know that R. Kelly at a young age, he had been sexually abused. He had been made to watch, sexual acts, porn and all these kinds of things. Very low education level, but extremely brilliant genius. Just like Kanye, brilliant musically. However, what we traded for his talent was his lack of accountability. We like his music, so we're just gonna let him do whatever he wants. And that's what happened in Chicago, and then he became an international star. Going back to how we treat our black women and why mental health for the black man is so important is because we do pass that pain down. And we had trouble in our relationships. We have trouble being good fathers, being good brothers, being good community leaders, good with our money. It's just this overall cycle. And the biggest victim of that is black women. It really is. How do y'all feel in terms of the gravity of that statement? Because we're talking about building the black family, but we can't do it if we don't take care of ourselves. And then the result of that is also taking care of our women.
I think that starts to begin to segue into the point about doing something is the start and doing it well is the next goal. Because for accountability, for example, a lot of us thought accountability was, okay, he went to jail, that's the end of it. But that's not.
Right.
Because we have to realize that Robert Kelly is not the only Robert Kelly in the world.
Oh, facts, yeah.
And the accountability is now talking about the culture of allowing folk to slide, as you alluded to, but also the fact that we shame victims, because that's a core part of it. But then also, does accountability really look like us just sending folk to jail, or does accountability look like us talking about how we can move past this carceral thought pattern? Because we kill them, okay, that makes people feel better. We send them to jail, okay, that makes them feel better. But what does that do for all the victims who still need healing? For all the victims who we don't know about yet as well?
Right.
We have to realize that if we only use the framework we're given, we're not going to be able to go far, because we can only go as far as they thought to. Which is why we also have to remember that we don't have to use our opinions alone to inform how we think. There are scholars who came before us who did that. Not that we have to use that as an ironclad guide, but a guide is an important guide. We got Dr. Joy DeGruy, we got Nikki Giovanni, we got Imani Perry, we have Angela Davis, we have people we can tap on to help us think about how transformative justice is the true justice.
Right.
Because as we know with, mass incarceration, prison doesn't really change much. And even though R. Kelly is broke, if he had money, prison would change nothing.
Right.
He would post his bail, he would do his little bit of time, and he would be back. And then he'd probably do a little tour. All the aunties and uncles would be like, oh yeah, Robert did his time. He served his debt to community.
He's good.
They'd be like, we're good.
Right.
We're not good. Because we know underneath that surface, he is still who he is, because there has been no reformation, no growth, no nothing. It's just him saying, okay, I did with y'all lives, which makes us now have to ask, well, is sending people to prison really doing anything? Or is it just making us feel a little bit better for those who do actually stay in prison?
It's something I want to ask, and it's not even really a statement. I'm really not even sure. But one of the things I think that continues to drive behavior is always going to be consequences versus rewards. R. Kelly gets rewarded. I mean, let's be honest, for his behavior. Like when you go to his concerts, you see women. You don't even see dudes. Like I don't know no dudes that listen to R. Kelly no more.
Right.
But when you go to his concerts, there's women still throwing themselves at him. How can we change the behavior when he's being rewarded for the behavior every single time he go out sweating and singing "Step in the Name of Love"? You know, like you get a lot of guys who are considered to be quote unquote fuck boys or whatever, but the fuck boys get rewarded.
Yeah.
So what can we do within a culture to stop people we can't control? Because black men, we can't control black women. They're gonna do what they do. But we honor them and we love them regardless.
Right.
But when black women are rewarding him, how do we check R. Kelly's in the community or fuck boys in the community, period, when they're the ones getting the most attention and the most gratification and the most rewards for their behavior?
Right.
To that point, meditate. Because meditation is going to lead to you recognizing your own fuckery. Once you recognize your own fuckery, and then you recognize if you're in those inner circles where you can see other men in the trajectory they're going, can be like, damn, I ain't on that same trajectory. I ain't on, like, my life is fuckery. Why is it? I need to make some fucking changes.
Right,
and so
right.
that comes with like self-reflection. A lot of black men don't do self-reflection.
Right.
They just think, let me keep going on. Let me keep pushing through. Let me keep trying to figure it out. No, take a step back, look at yourself in the mirror and say, where am I going wrong? What's this common denominator that is causing all these fucking problems? 9 times out of 10, it is you. So what the fuck can you do to fix it? And so it's just, I think therapy is a great way, but another great way is meditation. So just, we gotta not just be like, oh, I'm getting rewarded for the fuckery that I'm doing. No, is it right?
Can I say something too real quick? This
Go
is
ahead.
like you said, you think therapy is good. I was just saying, like, one of the reasons, like, I'm just thinking about what made me never really want to talk to nobody was because of from dealing with certain females. Like, when so you deal with a certain female, you ever be down or have no money or certain shit like that, or you just express certain feelings to her, and then she throw them back at you.
Oh, yeah,
like,
definitely.
At a time where you like, oh, that's how you really felt.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
shit
Yeah.
like that
Right.
makes me not want to talk.
Shut
to
down.
them.
Yeah.
I rather that type of stuff makes me not want to open up.
Right.
Or just in general, especially not to somebody I don't know.
Right,
You know
right,
what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah,
Definitely not
facts.
somebody,
Yeah.
but things of that nature. But coming from black, I never dealt with a Caucasian woman. For me, so all coming from black women when I really think about it.
Right.
But I don't know, it just came to my mind.
No, I feel you.
Yeah, and I mean that's really important to note because that's your experience, right? And a part of the growth and the accountability is us talking about where the experience deviates from the reality. Because as you know, we have black women in the room, so y'all can speak to it if y'all want to. A lot of black women do spend their whole lives doing emotional labor for men. That's not to say that there aren't black women who resist that and throw it back at you. That's not to say there aren't black women who say, I'm just not doing this. But the reality is, the norm is not so much black women saying, nah, fuck out of here. It's really them saying, well, you know what? I'm also tired, right? Because it's also the capitalism acting on them, it's also the patriarchy, all that stuff. And what we often miss too is that we can't treat one experience like all of our experiences. And I know that's easy to say, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
But it's really, really hard to focus on. But that goes back to being committed to trying because we have to make sure we try with ourselves all the time. Because society is going to tell us, I don't even know what you're trying for before we even put our hand up and say, hey, I got an answer. But that's also the dimensions that come with trying to be patient with ourselves too. A lot of us have been told all our lives, you're not broke, you're just a broke millionaire, trying to believe that, oh, I'm gonna somehow win the rat race.
Yeah.
But if we look at the NFL, not a whole bunch of black men are winning because so many get siphoned off. We look at the NBA, not a lot of black men are winning because they're getting cut off. So again, we have to think about, well, whose goals am I aspiring to? And within that, what goals do I have that I can achieve and then expand to suit me? Because sometimes it's not just the how we go about talking about it, it's the fact that we only use one avenue. Like you said, you journal, you write, you read, you do a lot. But sometimes we do immediately rely on, I want to be able to talk to you. It's like they have to be prepared to talk to you too. Because they might have had a bad day.
Right.
So I'm happy that you tapped on that, Britton. You can hear me now? All right, so I'm happy that you mentioned that because it's a tweet that I wanted to read to you guys and see what your opinion was on it. So everything is in quotations here. Black women are not a black man's therapist. We aren't here to heal y'all. Black women aren't responsible for black men and their issues. And so he says, bro, if this is how y'all feel for real, stay away from black men. Of course, not every black man isn't emotionally damaged or unstable, but for y'all to basically cast a man aside if you were in a position to help because it's not your problem, yeah, y'all sound selfish. I've seen this narrative of black men don't protect black women being pushed. I guess black men with mental health issues don't get the same protection. If you were ever in a place to help a black man and chose not to, you're the problem. Hypocrites is what y'all are. So I did comment and say, I think that many black men feel like women can take on their 30 plus years of unhealed childhood traumas when many times we can't. Women aren't therapists or professionals, and every woman, like you basically just said, doesn't have the right answer to steer you in the right direction where to go. Help you, sure, but heal you, therapy. So what do you feel about that statement that he said? Because I read it and I had to understand where he was coming from. Like, I do understand that because, like you said, you'll voice yourself and your opinion to somebody and they throw it back in your face. Why would I want to come back to you to talk to you about it again? Or why would I want to help build the family with somebody that is throwing that at me? So it is, like you said, it's a cycle. It's you guys putting it on us. It's us giving it back to you. And it's just a never-ending back and forth. So elaborate on that.
So based on the original tweet, I agree 100%, with what the woman said. We as men have to be very careful and not make women responsible for our pain. I tend to think of it very, in the physical sense. Like, if I break a bone and you're not a doctor, you can help me get to the doctors. You can help me get to the doctors. You can call a doctor for me. You can, do whatever it needs to take for me to go to someone to get that worked on. You could comfort me, maybe some, if I'm sick, you'll take care of me. All right, but it's not your job to heal me completely. All right, the things that's necessary for me to heal completely is on me to take advantage of. What often happens is broken men come to women, and women themselves are also broken. All right, and if we're truly honest about it, how much of it is true on the reverse side? How well do we support our women who are dealing with issues emotionally? All right, we don't expect. We're not their therapists, yet then someone makes a comment like that, a brother comes and says, how dare you, I highly doubt that brother actually says, oh, come here, let me help you, all right, what can I do to support you? Like, he's not being a therapist, so we have to, at the end of the day, be really, really honest about it. It's not an even trade, and we're not doing justice by our women by expecting that they deal with the baggage that we dealt with. Another example, I'll go back to R. Kelly. What woman, whose responsibility in his life, all the women that he dealt with, was it to handle all the things that he had experienced as a child? Like, what could a woman do with R. Kelly to fix R. Kelly? What can Kim Kardashian do for Kanye? And even her statement, whether she wrote that statement in its entirety or not, it was actually a really well-written statement. She's like, listen, we are at the mercy of someone who can't control himself. And as a family, it's really frustrating because all he can do is help himself. We can't do anything for him. We can't force him to go see a therapist. We can't force him to take his meds. We can't force him to sit down and have a decent conversation. So what do? And honestly, even with Kim and all her resources, I wouldn't put the responsibility on her to fix Kanye. Yeah. I don't know who can fix Kanye except Kanye. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, I was also going to say, too, that for a lot of black women who take that role upon themselves to help broken black men, it's dangerous sometimes. You can be dealing with a guy with severe depression issues, aggression issues. Right. So it's a lot of sisters who have said, I'm going to help this guy, and got their jaw broke for it. So I definitely understand black women being cautious when it comes to taking upon a role of being an untrained therapist. I think that's a big part of the reason why a lot of black women are damaged now, because they took that role on trying to play that part, and they couldn't.
And a lot of black men try to make the fact that we have issues discussing our feelings black women's fault, but that's a black men thing too. Like, if you feel like you can't talk to your homies about your feelings, that's an issue within you. Right. If you shame your homies for talking about their feelings, that's an issue within you. Because again, the black male privilege is thinking, oh, you know what, I don't need to do any self-development. I'll just get me a good woman. And then that's the end point for the thought. They're not thinking, I'm going to support this good woman. I'm going to make this good woman happy. I'm going to do whatever it is she would like. It's just, I'm going to go unload onto her. And then as soon as I feel bad, then I'll go drink it with the homie. We're not going to talk about nothing. We're going to talk about Madden. We're going to talk about the NFL. We're going to talk about 2K. We're going to talk about basketball. And it's like, what you're also suffering from is shrinking your own dimensions to fit a narrative that was never intended for you anyway. Because all these ideas of patriarchy and sexism and homophobia, these were written by the white men and the white women who were like, listen, this is what we want for us. You're co-opting ideologies they didn't even put you in the little graphic for. Not that you should want to be in the graphic, because we can't representation our way out of bigotry. But what I'm saying is you need to reassess who is teaching you and then why they're teaching you that.
I just want to say real quick too, one more thing. We got to be careful using the term black men because these fuck boys do not represent me. I'm tired of every time I hear something about black men.
See, but
black men this, black not that. Because it's an issue of definition of. We have to have a definition of what manhood is. If you don't fit that definition, because you're not doing what men do.
But black people are people. We have to
No,
talk about the good.
There's a spectrum.
But at the same time, a man has a certain definition of what a man is.
Fair
people,
enough.
yes, they all black people. We all brothers and sisters.
But a
we
man.
all in the struggle. But
But that man has that variation.
Because black men rock a certain way.
But that's how a lot of dudes skate past accountability
yes.
too.
Right.
We be
So-
like,
so-
he's not a man.
Man is the word.
They be,
Yeah.
no, but listen. They
Dudes,
be like,
yes.
he's
Different.
not a man, so I don't gotta talk to him because I'm a
that's not
man.
at all.
But that is what a lot of people do.
Right, so what we're talking right now is we're talking physical versus the actual social, and what we're now drawing a line at and saying this is how I define manhood. All right, but that's not to exclude our brothers who are male by biology.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not- I'm not excluding nobody.
but in terms of how they behave, you know, how they carry themselves,
And
how they
develop.
respect and how they act within the community. You know, boys will be boys,
Yeah.
men will be men.
Exactly.
And we just have to kind of hold it there. On that same note, though, if you think about it, when we are growing up as boys, you know, the things that they tell us is, why you crying? You know, man up. Nah, wipe those tears. Boys don't cry.
Get
you know,
tough.
and this comes from both, you know, older men in our lives as well as women. You know, women be the first one to tell you, oh, stop being a sissy.
Fight.
Yeah, like you know, it's like you, like they toughen you up. So all you know is war, combat, getting this, and then having those like conversations about man and about rap, about music. We're never trained to talk about how we feel. And the moment we start talking about it, it's like, man, I ain't trying to hear that. Or you open up to your shorty, you open up to your partner, and it's like, man, you soft. I knew I should have, you know, and they throw stuff on your face. Or no, if God forbid you actually happen to cry. Or you was saying that last week you was crying about, like, come on now. Like, they throw it in your face, and now you don't want to seek therapy. You don't want to have a conversation with your boys about how you really feel. Like things could be killing you inside. Killing you inside. And you're afraid out of fear of rejection, out of fear of humiliation, that if you open up about what's making you cry or making you want to cry, that you shut down. So either you shut down, you silence it up, and so you internalize it on yourself and you hold that in, or worst case scenario, it comes out in the form of anger. It comes out in the form of violence. It comes out in the form of what we see with Kanye, where you're just doing stuff that makes no sense to anybody but you.
Yeah. Just to add to that, something me and my boys started, it's called MEND, Mold, Enrich, Nourish, and Develop. And it's just in terms of healing that black, or not, let me not just label it as black, but male toxicity. And just creating those spaces to where men are able to have those conversations, able to cry, able to be in those spaces. Because what happened was, and just me and him being best friends, when he lost his niece, baby, he didn't know how to take it. He walked in the house, just started bawling. I had to hold my best friend and just let him be in that space. But that brings it back to something that I learned, which was just reading the Bible. Job, when he lost everything, his best friends came and just sat there while he just dealt with the pain. And that's all I think black men have to realize. Like, we already all dealing with our own pain. So just be there to allow us to deal with it. You don't have to try to cultivate, just give us the resources, me, that best friend, to just be like, yo, I'm here. Let me know what you need me to do. That's it. Because I think we haven't, like you said, we always got told to man up. Nah, F that, fuck that.
Right.
Throw that manhood off. We all have have divine masculinity and divine feminine in us. We all have that. So stop trying to always like, yo, if you need to fucking cry.
Right.
Like shit, the fuck.
Yeah.
Go. But you know what I mean? When you ready, let's get back to it. But I think, it's something we're slowly learning. 2020 has been a huge change for everything.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be a start for something new. So, we'll see.
You highlighted a good point by discussing how there's a variety of ways to deal with it. Because a lot of times we do try to microwave it, right? So we like, let's do this, let's do that. This will make you feel better. And it's like, nah, like he wants to cry.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna make him feel better. So you got to make the space for that. We have to realize that helping people is not helping them how we would like to be helped, because sometimes we don't even know how we want to be helped. We know how we've been taught, but it's making a space for them to sort through it and then doing what you can. Sometimes that's the conversation. Sometimes that's just you kicking it in silence. Sometimes that's you saying, well, you know what, man, let me just go get you something to eat. Let me just take you worrying about dinner tonight off your table. Because there's always those small things that make big things. Because to go back into how complex pain is, the pain is that he lost his niece, right? But the pain might also be that he didn't get that promotion. The pain might also be that a family member is sick.
Right.
And then it starts to compound, it starts to build. And then that's when we hit the breaking point.
Snap.
Because another thing too is that we don't know how to talk about pain before it's too much to bear. We hold on to it, we save
Busters.
it, and then when it's too much to hold, then we like, yo, I'm in shambles. And it's like, yo, I could have helped you when the first little bit of pain kicked in.
Right.
What was up? Like, oh, I ain't want to trouble you. And it's like, why do you have an issue with letting the people who love you love you? Like, I wasn't gonna kick you out the crib if you was like, yo, like, I need to hold $100. I'm like, all right. And then, we gonna joke about it, whatever, but I'm not gonna be like, yo, so I need that money back because I care about you, right? You gotta stop looking at me like I'm the one that's gonna throw it back in your face. And you have to be willing to foster the network and then trust your network to love you.
Right. Yeah. And the breaking point is real. Again, the stress of life every single day, just the stuff that we as humans just deal with. It's a lot. In this particular month that we're looking at, Black Minority Mental Health Month, it's important for us, to learn different ways to cope every single day. Some people have different practices. They wake up in the morning, they go jogging. That's not just for their bodies, it's for their minds. Some people get up, they meditate, they do some positive affirmations. Some people,
Smoke weed.
Smoke weed, get high,
wake in
pour a
bed.
fifth, whatever the case might be. They do that. And as long as there's balance and delicacy with it, and you're intentional about what you're doing, it's a good way to cope. However, when you don't have those mechanisms and you're not addressing or even acknowledging the fact that life can be hard on a daily basis, like it can be hard. There's something real simple. Someone step in your shoe before you know you're trying to hit it, and we're trying to like, yo. Well, they would step in your shoe. Why'd you have to? Nah, it wasn't just that. Like,
That's a fact. It's never just that.
It wasn't just like, no, you know how hard I had to catch me at the wrong time. Like, this
You know
has been
how
a
hard I
rough
had to work for these kids?
You don't know what happened. You don't know what happened.
Yeah,
Like, oh, you did this? Oh, I'm about to show you something.
That's why some white folk are mistaken with the whole George Floyd thing. It's like, oh, they doing all that because of George Floyd. No, it ain't just because of George Floyd.
It's everybody.
Listen,
Everybody.
y'all been pouring
Everybody.
wood in the hole for a minute. It got to the top.
let
Y'all been
y'all
pouring gas on
slide.
it to the minute. George Floyd was just a match.
Y'all still
out of
acting
everything
like
we're
this
doing.
is just something.
And then y'all want to downplay how we feel as a community. Now we're talking about mental health as a community.
Yeah.
Folks crying, tearing things up and all that. Like this,
They
this
lucky.
it's not about George Floyd.
I
And mind you, this is
swear
during the
on my
pandemic.
life.
So it was Ahmaud Arbery we watched. It was Breonna Taylor, and then right after that it was George Floyd, and that's on top of all the other names that we could call it.
And after that too, it was a couple.
So
Yeah.
and then on top of that, we're still seeing it in various areas. Where now they're trying to bring in the feds into Chicago. We see them over there acting up in Portland. It's just all types of craziness. Y'all just keep pouring and pouring and pouring, and y'all want to judge our pain and our response.
Tell us how to comprehend our
Tell
own pain.
us how to deal with the traumas that we see and that we face, both primary and secondary.
They trying
It's
to
white culture.
entice.
They don't understand us though.
Yeah.
So
They trying to
they don't
entice.
understand. They don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but do they though? 'Cause
As far as the
Yeah,
media,
yeah.
as far as with the media,
Yeah.
Nah, I think
but they
it's
have
more
an agenda
correct.
too though.
They know.
So
It
they
might
have
be
an
more
agenda
correct to
too,
say
though,
they
at the
don't
same
care,
time.
not that they don't understand. They don't care.
Yeah.
True, you're right.
Yeah. I
They
don't
don't care to
know.
understand.
It's the lack of empathy, but it's
They
also the
just
lack of
don't
concern
show.
because they don't see us on the same level. There's this lack
That's
of
a-
humanity.
Right.
Like, oh,
Facts.
they're animals. Look at they're being
Yeah.
animalistic.
Facts.
But they
They
always
burnt down
thought
the police
about us
station.
as that way. So it's like it's
Yeah.
not really new.
Right.
They've been thought of us as animals.
But you know what's crazy though?
So what's new?
White
Like-
people have a history of violence, way more than
Yeah,
black people.
no facts. That's
When you
all
really
they
think about it,
done.
they really
That
do.
is their history.
Yeah.
We're colonized. No, they changed
No,
the name. Before
no.
y'all called it conquering.
Right.
Like keep the same energy,
Right,
motherfuckers.
right.
Like they lucky
Mass
we
slaughter.
are just nice human beings. Because otherwise, you know what I mean, it'll be a different story. But nonetheless, my bad.
No. It's good because yeah, I find myself sitting on the couch one day and just kind of reflecting on everything that's happening with Black Lives Matter and everything, just whatever, and I even began to cry because I was like, I don't understand why we have to fight just to be treated like humans.
Yeah.
Like we're not asking for nothing special. Like if a cop catches me speeding, give me a ticket.
Yeah.
Cool. I earned that. Like I knew when I was doing the buck at a 65 that I was doing something wrong. That's fine with me. However, when the lights go on behind me, I get nervous.
Yeah.
Not simply because I don't want to pay a $300 ticket.
Yeah.
It's because I don't know what kind of cop is going to come to my window. Right. You know what I mean? And then I'm sorry. And then on top of that, so you have that on top of some issues that might be happening at home. Some issues that might be happening, whether I lost a loved one to COVID, they were sick and then I kind of watched them wither away. Some issues that might be happening because they looked over me for a promotion because I was a black man, which still happens, by and large. And then now I got this guy coming up to my window telling me to drop my keys on the pavement, show me your hands and so that. I was like, hold on, I was just speeding. I know I was going 35 over, but like, don't treat me like I'm about to like roll up on you. Like I'm not about to hit you with my vehicle. It's difficult. And then so that frustration pents up. And then you think about it like, why am I so hated? Why am I so hated? Why is it that I have to wear a shirt and tie, with a hanky, clean, and speak well, so to speak, just to get that
assimilate.
respect. Yeah. And even then on top of
You
that,
still might not
I
get
still
it.
might not get it, depending on who I deal with. Come still a nigga in the suit.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've reached the point now too, we can better discuss how like the government and systemic issues impact the way we view these things. Because to go back to what you said earlier about individualism, a lot of our pain is so deep because we're taught that we're individuals, right? So then we're taught you're a failure because of something unique to you. We're not realizing this, the fact that, like you said, you in the suit, you in the tux, you got everything you need, and they still, did this black man just walk in here? Hey man, call security. and then you thinking, dang, it's because I pulled up listening to Travis Scott, or it's because I didn't get my car washed. You blaming yourself for all these things that have nothing to do with you.
Right.
Because like we can even look at like suffering from homelessness, right? White folk get broke off every opportunity, but when they see a black person, it's he's probably on drugs. She probably didn't really pay attention in school. They got all these explanations, but as we know, crime and suffering is related to government failure. They're not funding. They're not disseminating funds. They're not supporting people. They're just saying, and that's it. They give you a shrug, and that's the end of it. And then when you try to talk about it, you try to speak on it, they gaslight you. They tell you, well, what did you do? Then they try to bring up the one time you didn't have the suit. They were like, you cheated yourself. They bring up the one time that you was drunk and they caught you high, and they're like, why were you doing that? Without realizing that when we look at research, because I'm a researcher by my training, white people do everything at the same rate.
Oh yeah, sometimes
everything.
worse. Yeah.
If not at higher rates.
Right.
And no matter if we look at drug usage, speeding, violence, comparable rates, but who bears the brunt of that?
Mass shootings, all that shit.
Who is the ones who we're told are doing more of it? And then who are the ones we told don't need help specifically because of it?
Right.
Us.
Right. Right. The prime example, even in Connecticut, you have the crack epidemic versus the opioid epidemic.
Opioid crisis.
The opioid. I'm sorry, it's a crisis. My bad. It's a crisis
Because it got to them.
Yeah.
Oh, we try to infiltrate y'all. Now it's at our doorstep.
Drugs
My
coming
bad.
in through
Shit.
Williamanic, and through other parts of Connecticut, these outskirts.
Well, like
whatever.
when the mayor of Maine said that their drug problem came because a dude from Hartford drove up there.
Bruh. All that snow up there. Listen, it didn't start with us. That's not the only thing white up there. So listen, all the money, it's all about following the money. You follow the money, you get to see what people's intentions are. The amount of money that was received and still is being received and funneled into communities that have suffered from the opioid crisis is crazy. However, when crack came about, they were just locking dudes up left and right.
Kicking in doors, using military gear, all
and
of that.
changing laws too.
Because they designed it that way.
Keep in mind,
They
the U.S.
did
government
it
bringing drugs in.
specifically.
Bringing the drugs in.
And got caught doing
They
it
said,
too.
Right.
y'all falling for our trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, falling for a trap.
It's same
They
thing.
did it on purpose.
Same thing with gun violence. Gun violence, and I'm always like, 'cause I had a conversation about Chicago last week. I'm just like, yo, what has happened in Chicago? Why all these shootings? You know, and the mayor's like, well, it's no worse than normal before. I'm like, it's kind of bad from the outside looking in. However, I always question, how did the guns get there? Because if you're so poor in Chicago, how are you pulling out AK-47s out the yin yang? Like, where's this stuff coming from?
Exactly.
You know, so in terms of the mental health capacity of it, it's kind of like, who is to blame? All right, the locus of control, is it me? Is it them? Is it both? You know, and then how do you handle that as someone who's trying to just make it in this world? You know, and what do you do? How do you connect? And how do you reach out for support?
Yeah.
You know, it's just a lot to deal with. In honor of this month, you know, we just need to take a really good step, and I think that's one of the positives of COVID. It forced everybody to slow down just a little bit and to start thinking about things and talking about things that we normally don't take the time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're stuck in the house, you know, whether you by yourself or with someone else, eventually you're gonna start thinking about some things you may have been avoiding for a long time. You know, if you've been on furlough from your job, you don't have anything to distract you. If your money done ran thin, you can't escape, you can't go on vacation, none of that. We can't go to our fancy, you know, vineyards and all that. So, you know, now you're stuck in thinking, and some of those thoughts, you know, you start to internalize. So that's why some people aren't doing so well during this pandemic, is because they've been forced to deal with some really ugly
Issues
stuff.
they never thought dealt with.
So going forward, what do we do as men?
I think a major issue is our self-definition. Because you got to remember, we use certain words constantly to define ourselves. That's why I don't use the word nigga. Because the nigga is the Frankenstein monster created by Caucasian conquerors of our people.
Yep.
So I don't use that word. But the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that the black man is God. And I believe everything that I've studied, from African religion, African spirituality, Indian, Japanese, Chinese, there's always this belief that human beings are put here to evolve, slowly and become divine ourselves, become gods ourselves. Like you were talking about the internal versus the external locus of control. If you believe that you are God, you believe that you're divine, you have an internal locus of control, meaning you have control over yourself, control over your environment. So I think our self-definition really needs to be tweaked and changed, because a nigga is the result of the environment. A God is the creator of the environment.
Right.
So we got to start seeing the divinity within ourselves. Some of us might be afraid to use that word God because of our religious upbringing or what have you.
Right.
Don't worry about that. God is not going to punish you for trying to be like him. That don't make no sense. So see the God within yourself, and I think that once we begin doing that and teaching that, instead of teaching the nigga, bitch, whole thought, fucking string of thought, once we get away from that and start seeing ourselves as gods, I think that'll definitely make a huge alteration in our future going forward.
Yeah, and the Bible speaks to us pursuing godliness.
Exactly.
All right, so
Yeah.
actually it's not sacrilegic
Having
at
that
all.
right, ye are gods.
It's part of our characteristic that we're all supposed to be aiming for as we strive to make, you know, eternity it is what it is. But you can't get there unless you get to a certain level of godliness.
Again, exactly.
To just hopefully wrap it up, meditation and therapy, write down your thoughts, all of that, just because it's going to help you cope with your experience and help paint a picture of what you're going through, and then help you deal with that, or make a cognitive thought of what you're going through, because then you're able to see, like, all right, I see the trend, I see everything, and I'm able to make a difference in it. So just meditation and therapy, man.
I would say communication, how we communicate to each other, and how efficient we do it, and like sometimes you gotta be proactive about certain things. Talking about it before the train actually crashed. You know, as far as things like that. So how we speak to each other and things of that, and you know, one other thing I wanted to say, like usually me and my girl, like how we do things is like, I don't like to argue with her in the morning, because when I argue with her in the morning and I go outside, then my whole day is off. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like setting the tone in the day, you in the morning, you know what I'm saying? Good vibes in the day, so that we can go out and get this money and just stay safe and get back home. That's all I would say.
Seeking comfort within self. Especially as men, especially as black men, we have a lot of external things we use to seek comfort. You know, am I taking care of my family? You know, like, am I a good fighter, right? Do I have nice stuff? Because we're trying to get external validation. I think the first part of all healing and all comfort really begins with realizing that we're good enough as is, but that we also have room to improve. Because a lot of times we try to paint ourselves only by those missteps, right? Or the things we lack, without realizing that there are people who are going to love you before you have money. Many black women do. There are going to be people who love you before you have all the designer you want. Your kids do. So realizing that you have to define for yourself who you are and what you are, and then make peace with the fact that life is long and not short. So you have time. Not everything is on you got limited time mindset, because it's not. I mean, some of us in here thought life was short when we were 16, then we hit 18, then we hit 20, then we hit 25, and it's like, damn, I got a lot of time, don't I?
Right, more than 25 years, bro.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you guys so much for that conversation. It was very informative for us Black women as well as for the Black men that do listen to our podcast. Please, each of you, let people know where they can find you, because like you said, it takes a village and it takes a group of men to be able to help each other be men. So let people know where they can find you on Instagram, social media, things like that.
All right. You can find me on Facebook. First name is Sharon, Charon. Last name is Smalls. On Instagram at Yo Ron Yo. I believe Twitter is also Sharon Smalls. So look me up there. I'm also in the correct school system. I'm a social worker at elementary school. I'm sorry. Also a school social worker at CREC, elementary school, a museum academy. You can look me up there for any education advice, social emotional learning advice as well.
My name is Daniel Boyd again. You can find me on IG, Dan the Brand LLC. I'm an engineer by trade, but if anybody want to learn how to meditate, if you want to just have a conversation, just shoot the shit, let me know, hit me up. I'm around.
Libra Lester the Third. You can find me on IG and Twitter at Blue Thoughts, but it's THXGHTS. You know, you got to be a little special with the spelling. And I'm also have a podcast, Thoughts from a Counselor, on IG as well. I guess as far as work, I also work at the University of Connecticut. I'm a researcher, grad student. So if anything else, just come to a department and ask about me.
I'm Devin McCory. You can find my business page on Facebook. It's the Wellness Initiative CT on Facebook. You can find our website at wellnessinitiativect.com. And I have a YouTube channel as well with me teaching basics about meditation, mindfulness, and encouraging mental empowerment. You can just look up the Wellness Initiative on YouTube as well.
Bragging rights. Y'all can check me out on Facebook, Instagram. Follow my YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube page. I'm the hottest dude in this area. I'm keeping it 100.
Bragging.
I tell y'all, I'm the hottest dude in this area. You feel me? My album 21 Dickerman dropping real soon.
He ain't lying.
MOS, Men of Success Entertainment. That's how we doing it. Thank y'all for having me.
We love you
thank you for
guys.
having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
we do have a positive vibe for this week. We did put on our social medias. We asked people to give a word of encouragement to Black men. And so we're going to read some of those.
Yeah, so some of, the ladies were saying some good things for you guys. They're saying you're beautiful, capable. You were built to last. You're strong. You're worthy. You're valued. Keep your head up. You know it's okay to to not be okay. They're proud of you. You matter. You're a king. You're important. And I think I speak for the team as a whole when I say we just want you guys to take care of yourself, not just physically, but mentally, because we need you guys here. We need our Black men. So be sure to take care of yourselves. Reach out if you need help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Free your
Love
scalp.
you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all that fun stuff.